Hi, and welcome to Will Henry's Workshop, with me being, of course, Will Henry. Well, I'm going to actually return to doing some work today, and the first thing up is to recontour the barrel for the Kimber 223. Now, I just took that rifle apart this morning, and it was pretty tight too, that barrel, and tight enough that it bent again here. It's visible on the camera, but it bent my newly machined wrench, and so that's going to be a one-time wrench. This wrench is made out of a piece of mild steel, and plainly it's not really up to the task. I had thought about case hardening it to see if that would help, but ultimately all I'm going to do is just make another wrench, and I'll get a piece of C1045 medium carbon steel, or if I can get a short piece of 4140, that would be even better. And then I can make a wrench that'll last a while. Anyway, I got the barrel off and set the other barrel up. Come around to where we can see that. Set the other barrel up between centers. Once again, we'll be driving it with a dog. And I've established the taper. It's going to be kind of a compound taper. For the first 13 inches, it is about 4.5 thousandths per inch of taper, and then from this point to here at 4.5 inches, it's about 11 thousandths per inch, and then the rest will be taken up with the concave transition, and there you have it. And then it's just a simple matter of fitting and chambering. So anyway, that's established. I'll offset my tailstock and I'll contour the barrel. That's going to take a little while, and I'm not going to make you watch that because, like I say, seen it once, you've seen it forever. All of this is just, well, it's straightforward enough, but sometimes to hear guys talk, this is a half-a-day job to switch a chuck. It's just really not. It's just tedious, that's all. So once I get this on, then of course I have to recenter the tailstock in order to be able to cut the chamber, and then that will be that. I don't actually need that thing running right at the moment. So if a person's doing, there again, a lot of barrels, it would make more sense to kind of do each step, to do a batch. But I'm at that point in my career where I'm just doing a job at a time. And So a little time wasted changing the machine around is not a big deal. When I was trying to make money at this, it was more of a big deal, and I would be just a little more efficient. But as it is, to recontour this barrel probably took about 45 minutes. Including the setup. But so it's not that onerous a job. But again, I'm not going to make you watch me set this up totally, and I really don't have anything that interesting to say, so I'm going to pause you for a moment. There, and I know I've gone through this before, but it's just kind of a reprise on aligning the tailstock center with the axis of the machine and with the axis of the headstock. So you just have to set up your dial and gauge on each side and see which way I'm going here. Okay, so right now my tailstock is offset away from the tool post by about 6/1000ths of an inch. So if I bring it this way, approximately 3/1000ths, I'm going to be pretty close to center. And again, this is, it's a minor pain in the neck, but it really doesn't take too long, usually, and it's fairly easily done. Well, see, there's a part I didn't anticipate. When I locked it down, it moved, so I'll have to compensate for that. And this is the thing, when you're doing this, you have to kind of understand how your tailstock works. And the lock screw at the back pulls the top of the tailstock back on the base so that it contacts the front of the surface that aligns it this way. These adjustment screws actually align it, slide it directly back and forth, so that you have two things happening there. You have it the direct back and forth, and then you've got an angular movement here until you have that screw tightened up. So the thing is, when you're moving it back and forth, the person wants to back that lock screw off a bit, but not so much that it is really going to mess up your reading. Now let's see what we get here. So I'll come back fairly close to where I want to be. Okay, there I'm at 1.5. So I'm on 2.5, so I've got to come over 0.5 yet. set screw. And I think that's, again, but we're chasing a half a thousandth back and forth here. So there we're within about 2/10,000ths of being perfectly centered, and that's probably as well as I can do. When I lock the tailstock quill in place, it moves, well, there again, about 2 or 3 10,000ths. Yeah, it comes back to the same place, and moving it back and forth, there's no change, so that's as good as we're going to get. So, again, changing your tailstock's orientation is a bit of a pain in the neck, but it's not that big of a deal. And so now we're all set up to where I'm going to be able to chamber, and to do that, of course, I'll set the barrel in the headstock. I'll dial it in at both ends as usual. I'll use a piece of brass wire at this end to allow the barrel to pivot, and that'll be it. And it'll be a fairly straightforward deal. And so we'll rejoin after I get set up, and I'll move the camera up to the pigeon's nest there and give you a better viewpoint. And until then, we take. So here we are with the barrel set up in the lathe. I've I dialed it in. I've already threaded it, and 840 by 20 threads to the inch, and then I roughed the chamber with a Q letter series drill, which nominally is 0.332 in diameter, and it actually drilled 333, which is not that bad. The drilled hole ran out by about a half a thousandth of total indicator run out, so it was really pretty good. But nonetheless, I bored the first part of the chamber on the taper for a distance of about 3/8 of an inch. There again, to give the reamer a good start, and everything should work out pretty well. This is a 223, a standard 223, and it has about 20 thousandths of an inch of taper per inch, which to me is just about the ideal amount. It's enough taper that the chamber cleans up well as you go along, and it's enough chamber that extraction is good, enough taper that extraction is good, and the round feeds well, and so on. So really kind of an ideal cartridge from that standpoint. But anyway, we're going to start out here by and see how the reaming goes. I've only left about 5/1000ths of an inch to ream, so it's the reamer's not working very hard, and once it gets going in there, like I say, the reamer's supported enough by the body and by the taper that it has cut that that everything from that point on should go quite well. Now this particular barrel, a barrel from IBI, is this will be the first one of these barrels that'll be getting anything like a serious test, for me anyway. So I'm kind of anxious to see how it works out. This one is another 5R barrel, which I hate, but that's what they make in this caliber, so that's what I've got. There's 6mm is, I believe, a standard 4 groove, but the 6.5 we have is also a 5R, and again, I'm not thrilled about that, but there you have it. Now I want to find a little piece of stone so I can check this reamer. First cut looks really good, but to be sure it keeps along in that vein, we'll make sure and keep these cutting edges clean. Hear the dog complaining in the background because, well, simply because I'm doing something other than paying attention to the dog. And she seems to think that's a travesty. So again, a very straightforward operation, and in fact, straightforward enough that I'm not going to make you suffer through the whole thing, and so I'll pause you for a little bit and save you a little viewing time. So there, as promised, I didn't make you watch the whole chambering operation. So there it is, chambered, and the next thing is to shape the breech. Now the 223 in the Kimber is a little different than the others in that it has a countered board breech rather than a coned breech, and I actually prefer that, and I think they should have counterboard all of them, and because that way the bolt face is up inside that counterbore, so it kind of controls gas in the event that you have a case rupture. Mind you, with the ejector cut through the bolt, it's still going to funnel gas into the left-hand locking lug raceway, so it might not make any difference, but regardless, I kind of prefer the countered board breech to the cone breech. Now, in this case, the counterbore is going to be 129 thousandths deep and 0.595 in diameter, and that allows about 5 thousandths of an inch ahead of the bolt and just about 7, I think, on the diameter, and that should work out fine. Then after the counterbore, I'll screw it on and mark it, and then once again we have to make an extractor cut. So, but the first thing I have to do before I do the counterbore is I have to shorten up this tenon by about 5 thousandths of an inch, because I made it that much too long. Because I used my my caliper technique to set the length, and as I said, that usually gets you within about 5 thousandths, and sure enough, that's exactly where we ended up. So now I can go up here and touch with the boring bar. I'll just use the boring bar to face that off. I'll double check that length to make sure that that's where we want to be. I could probably have gotten away with just leaving it 5 thou long and cutting the counterbore that much deeper, but I might as well go with the numbers I'd written down. Okay, I wanted it 9/10 of an inch long, 0.900. It's actually 0.901, but I think I can live with that thousandth of an inch, so I'm going to leave that there. A little grabby. In fact, that boring bar is cutting badly enough that I'm going to change bars. I don't like like it at all. I'm going to pause you for a second. There we go, got the little hand ground bar in place, and cutting much better, so there we go. A lot of times those raised tip boring bars, the angles aren't quite what they should be, so they just don't work quite as well as it should. Check here and see where we're at. you know, 595-ish. And so that should do. So the next thing is just to take that out and set up the palm grin attachment and cut the extractor cut. And of course I'll have to tighten that up on the receiver and mark it before I do that. And so once again, for right now we're done, and I'll get it ready to do the extractor cut. And there again, we've already seen that, but I'll decide whether I'm going to show you that operation or not again, but I think you've probably seen it enough, and so we'll continue on.